We now have Kristen Downham, followed by Scott Henderson and Robert Laurie. Yep. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kristen Downham, and I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which is seated in Treaty 6 territory and homeland of the Métis. I spent the first 19 years of my life in BC. I spent the last 15 years of my life mentally ill. I have worked my way through professionally diagnosed PTSD, MDD, a few different anxieties, an unspecified personality disorder, ADHD, and what I imagine to be undiagnosed bipolar or BPD symptoms. I just completely cured myself only 3 days ago with the help of psilocybin and a good conversation with a friend. Psilocybin and other drugs we aren't ready to discuss, like LSD or MDMA, have allowed me to forgive myself for everything. Things like childhood acts of incest and bestiality, to falling headfirst into the throngs of predatory adults both online and in real life. By the time my parents and school bothered to teach me about sex, I was also taught to feel guilty and shameful for what I'd done. I forgave myself for being so uneducated in my own mental health that I set my school on fire as a cry for help. I forgive myself for fabricating a sexual assault, drug use, and a suicide attempt in order to explain my early adolescent symptoms to trained professionals, or for only getting one goal in life and having it unceremoniously stripped from me for being so mentally unwell that people felt the need to keep me away from firearms, even though target shooting in the Army Cadet program has been one of the few stabilizing factors in my life. I would have never used a firearm on myself or someone else for fear of adding to the statistics that it would have prevented others from experiencing target shooting in the positive way I did. I forgive myself for not owning any of the guns I currently use to hunt or compete with because I'm too scared of getting my right to own them taken away. I forgive myself for the drug and alcohol abuse that I would carry on throughout my life and that I wouldn't receive any professional help with any of this until I was 14. I forgive myself for dropping out of school in grade 10 to work instead. I give myself props for returning eventually for a year, even if it was just a rebellious mess of a teenager selling pot and getting people run out of town for snitching on me. I forgive myself for falling in love with a government-employed sexual predator and for having difficulty attempting to avoid all triggers related to my time in cadets and target shooting after reporting the predator to save other victims, but also for not being able to stomach any of the rape culture or victim blaming so prominently displayed to me over the years. I forgive myself for reaching adulthood only to end up relying on government assistance and the kindness of one friend to keep me financially stable for the past 8 years. I forgive myself for terminating a pregnancy where I couldn't imagine a future where I'd be mentally well enough or financially stable enough to become a parent. I also forgive myself for only lasting 5 years going toe-to-toe with the government of Canada over how they need to better protect future youth in the cadet program before they won and I sold my right to publicly drag them through the mud about it. That was only 2 years ago. I forgive myself for having to learn the hard way that money doesn't buy happiness, for wasting money on experiences I'd never be able to enjoy, for not saving any of it. I managed to be able to... Can I please continue? Is it okay?
You know, maybe 10 seconds.
Oh, can I 1 minute, please? Please, I came all this way. I only had 2 days to prepare.
Okay, Councillor DeGenova, I think is going to ask you a question.
Can you share with us for 1 more minute?
1 more minute is all I need. Thank you. Okay. I forgive myself for wasting money on experiences I'd never be able to enjoy, for not saving any of it. I managed to buy a house, reliable vehicle, despite battling extreme bouts of suicidal ideation at least once a week for the last 3 out of 4 months straight. I forgive myself for hurting every living being I didn't mean to hurt along the way. I tried all kinds of government support to heal myself legally for the past 12 years. I've done eating right, exercising, yoga, journaling. I've had the opportunity to create a support system for myself in school. I've been loved, cared for a number of non-party peers and leaders. I've worked my way through mental health professionals, through talk therapy, group therapy, CBD, DBT, EMDR, body awareness, and all kinds of other methods. I took 4 legal medications over the last 7 years. Only one of them even had a remotely acceptable cost-benefit outcome. I forgive myself for being so messed up and let down by the mental health services that we have in place that I felt the need to attempt to heal myself with drugs that you deem illegal. That I had to engage in criminal activity to both keep myself stabilized at times and to actually heal myself. That you would see the individuals who risk the time in prison to sell me my medicine is criminally responsible. It is unacceptable to me that the catalyst for my change, the gram of a naturally occurring fungi that only cost me $2.50, is something you're even considering to prevent or deter. That the combination of that mixed with exposing all of my skeletons to a new and caring person and being heard and not made to feel guilty or ashamed for my actions transformed me to a point where I refuse to live any other way. I want the hate. I want people out there to hate me so they spend less time hating each other and themselves. I forgive myself and the entire world for the state of everything. I understand how we got here and we need to change now. I need this to be a catalyst. Canada needs more comprehensive sexual education and mental health services decades ago. I need you, members of Vancouver City Council, to not only back away from deterring and preventing the sale of distribution of psilocybin and other illegal drugs, but to pioneer our access and understanding of these drugs. This isn't for me. I've got my cure. I'm too scared to touch most drugs now, for the fear of losing my state of being. Even my tolerance for marijuana has significantly lowered, and I'm having difficulty finding strains that give me positive effects. I'm saying this for the benefit of my fellow Canadians, those who are still stuck in the cycles of generational trauma, those stuck living with the guilt and shame for being human. Those people may benefit from these substances in the same way I did. They deserve the legal right to try what I have. Please exercise extreme caution if you do the same thing I do. I could have easily made my mental health worse or even induced psychosis. I thought I would have had to take a massive dose to achieve this, 8 times the amount of what it actually took. That leads to adverse effects like puking and the individual not being conscious in their ego death, which has the potential to go wrong and seriously damage their mental state for some time. Making them feel remotely criminal about the situation does not help. We're going to keep doing this whether you decide to help us or not. I believe your involvement is required at this point to take away the criminal nature of it all and to open doors into researching and understanding what many drug-friendly Canadians have been trying to tell you for years. This isn't a fix-all. It isn't meant for everyone. I know others who have achieved similar things through mental health services, books, or religion. But I beg of you, please don't limit and continue to criminalize those of us that do need this drug and others like us.
Okay. That is your time, Councillor DiGenova, but you do have some more questions.
For extra time, I appreciate it.
Thank Councillor DiGenova. But Councillor Dominato has some questions for you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm going to bend the rules a little bit. I'm not really supposed to make statements, but I'm just going to say thank you for sharing. Thank you for your candor. Thank you for your openness. And because I think that probably everyone around council values it and appreciate it and coming out and speaking your truth. So thank you for that.
I can't do anything else now. I don't have an option. I spent the last 14 years of my life in a mental prison. I'm not going back there, regardless of how people treat me, regardless of jail time, regardless of deaths, suffering, pain. None of it matters anymore.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Those are your questions. Great. Thank you.